in the harsh medieval winters. A staggering one in 5 peasants wouldn't live to see the spring. They didn't simply disappear. They succumbed to the relentless cold during what England referred to as the Little Ice Age. Survival was not just about braving the piercing chill. Inside their bodies, organs would fail even as their minds remained aware, forcing them to witness each painful moment of their decline. As we delve into this historical narrative, imagine yourself in this chilling era. Make sure you're cozy with your pillows adjusted and your blanket tucked around you because where we're headed, comfort is a luxury. Outside, the winds howl fiercely, exploiting every small gap in your humble home. You find yourself unwilling to wake up, but consciousness doesn't give you the choice. It's the coldest morning of 1347 in your English village. Above you, the thatched roof streams in a light dusting of snow, while your breath forms a misty fog, tangible in the frosty air. Your family huddles together on a wooden sleeping platform, overcrowded with 6 people squeezed into a space meant for 3. The lumpy woolen blankets are your only defense against the bitter air. Every step you take on the frosted earth floor is a sharp reminder of the demanding day ahead. But the day's duties include feeding the animals and taking a turn at frost watch, critical tasks necessary for any hope of survival. Time 0.95s in winter. Your body undergoes noticeable changes, almost like a kind of human hibernation. Movements are minimal, and energy is consciously conserved. The whole village operates with this shared understanding, because to endure means to work together. When the morning calls you outside, only half the chimneys emit smoke, a testament to the scarcity of firewood. The others save their precious logs, relying on body heat and the warmth of their animals. The village's frost watcher from the previous night, William, approaches you to pass along his findings. His face tells the story of a night spent vigilantly battling the elements, and his voice retains the cold of the early hour. He informs you that fires in 4 homes were extinguished last night, placing lives at risk. The possibility that some villagers might not have awakened weighs heavily. Such questions are the fearful whispers of every winter dawn. The tales of survival don't end at the hearthstone. Pandemic periods saw entire communities relying more heavily on each other. Individuals like your father would risk the severity of frostbite, even for animals as crucial as pigs, saving a food source vital during this unforgiving season. You witness these moments with anxiety, understanding that every action echoes through the livelihoods of your village. Your father, for example, jumped into frozen waters to save an animal, with his health and the safety of your family hanging in the balance. Winter meals are yet another communal experience. Gathered at the central fire, your contribution to the communal pot, a rabbit caught and prepared meticulously with Agnes, is appreciated. Food is scarce, a valuable asset that necessitates careful rationing among households. Despite the dire condition, time 0.65s. Moments of light break through, like the first winter feast. These celebrations are not lavish, but offer psychological respite, strategically placed throughout the season to uplift dwindling spirits. As night descends, families retire to their homes, relying on shared warmth to get through the cold. Your sleeping quarters are modest, stacked with family finding comfort against one another. On these nights, survival rests in the balance between shelter and exposure, between community resilience and the isolation that every household fights to resist. In this narrative of survival, etched through implacable winters and sparse resources, the shared spirit of medieval villages lives a time 0.65s, showcasing human tenacity coupled with unwavering communal bonds. In a dimly lit room, chickens nestle in their chosen corner, their presence a serene prelude to the night's chores. The fire in the hearth burns low, as planned, offering enough warmth without squandering valuable wood. Smoldering embers linger, ready to be revitalized with a single log, a calculated addition, carefully measured to maintain the room's warmth throughout winter's night. Every piece of wood is precious, its use strategically charted across the frigid months. In the silent room, your mother moves with practiced ease towards a wooden chest where food waits. This late hour is reserved for crucial tasks that keep life's wheels turning. She retrieves a clay pot of oats, steeping overnight in water, primed for tomorrow's breakfast. Procrastination is unthinkable when morning brings its own rapid demands. This midnight watch is not unique. Across other households, some pray, others whisper in hushed tones, while many couples find solace in the privacy of night. Artisans might indulge in detailed crafts, fingers navigating by feel rather than sight, as the darkness breeds an unparalleled concentration. Envision the scene: a single-room dwelling, the fire casting just enough light to transform utter darkness into dancing shadows. The air carries the scent of wood smoke mingled with thatched roof dampness and life unbathed. Your breath hangs in visible clouds, as outside, a profound darkness reigns, unmarred by city lights, a primal night reminiscent of eras long past, before electricity pushed back the shadows. Your mother whispers to your sister, asking for wool. As she rise, time 0.95s. Odd as it seems to modern sensibilities, this wakeful period did not bother medieval folks. It was a time seized for productivity. While today's insomniacs might fret, people of the past embraced this midnight wakefulness. Your sister gathers a basket of carded wool, and your mother, seated by the fire's dim glow, begins her evening's rhythmic task. Feel it. The spindle whirs softly in her hands, turning wool into thread, sculpted more by touch than sight. That very thread will morph into fabric, and then into essential clothing, life's barrier against the surrounding cold. The door creaks as your father returns from his brief sortie outside. He mentions the feel of snow in the air, a collective understanding, acknowledging the shift such weather brings. Snow paints new challenges, perilous paths and grueling work, isolating the village even further. Yet snow blankets the house, an insulator, safeguarding dormant crops and, with fortune, reveals trails of game for hunting. Eventually, Someone wonders if the snow shovel should be readied. Your father contemplates. In a resource-hungry winter, tools are sparingly used. At first light, he decides, conserving strength in the darkness. As the night progresses, everyone's attention subtly turns to focused tasks. This era's answer to modern midnight restlessness. No distractions of glowing screens or raids on the icebox. Here, actions deliberate and resources stingily rationed. Your younger brother, eager to show his work, beckons you closer. In the corner, a small carving of a bird emerges beneath his knife, destined as a gift for the midwife's daughter, hoped to ease her childbirth, a testament to how every skill supports community survival. By now, you might ponder the warmth through such a season, the brilliance of layered clothing strategy. Even in sleep, you wear multiple layers, starting with a simple linen shirt, not for warmth, but protecting outer garments from body oils. This material being washed more often than cherished wool. On top is a woolen tunic, extraordinarily soft, thanks to generations of selective breeding and medieval processing techniques. Wool, strengthened even when damp, stands resilient against the elements, an irreplaceable lifeline. Your father gesture time 0.665s, and you fetch his boots, rigid from the cold. You work to restore their suppleness, for stiff boots equals frozen feet, and that can spell disaster. Tell the one about the frost giant. Your sister urges your mother. Midnight leaves room for storytelling, tales that frame the harsh cold in conquest rather than threat. Even as spinning continues, the story spins too, of a frost giant, defeated not by force, but cunning, with lessons woven into its fabric. A change in the wind seeps into your senses. Your father feels it, too. The impending storm signals medieval sophistication in weather prediction, born from generations of observing nature's patterns. You glance outside through a shutter, snow swirling in a fevered dance. The night transforms as you heed your mother's call to close the window. The warmth must be safeguarded. The snugness of silence envelops the household, as the outside turns into a muffled world painted by snow. The household's quiet. Industrious rhythm prepares for the night's second sleep, deeper and longer. Tasks wrap up, fires are banked, and counters checked. The pig, chickens, even the family cat. A sparse meal, mere morsels of hard cheese and ale for sustenance, embodies pragmatic nourishment. People settle into the heat-retaining layout for rest. Warm stones nestled among the bedding, expelling comfort like a medieval hot water bottle. Daylight creeps in, muted yet present, as dawn unveils the world anew. Your father is already nurturing the fire, anticipating the challenges of a snow-covered landscape. The morning's meal sustains vigor, the strengthened porridge fending off hunger pains before their resolve is tested by snow clearing. Paths carved through the drifts lead to critical resources. Snow removal isn't luxurious, but lifeline necessary. In the village, Coordination ensures that life resumes, each family battling isolation. A call for aid redirects your path to a struggling neighbor, where efforts combine in mutual reliance. Labor recirculates support, a set of crampons for aiding icy walks reciprocated for shared labor. Midday sees victory over the snow's siege, lifelines renewed and attention turning to clever drainage systems, honed by centuries of meticulous trial and knowledge sharing. An unexpected boon, tracks of game, clues to life, moving in the bleak wilderness. A youthful hunting party embarks, mindful of conserving their energy, steps marked by instinct. The renewed focus probes the mystery of a predator's path. Fox tracks challenging their advancement provide both rivalry and opportunity. The pursuit is an instinctual dance, steeped in understanding, learned through repetition. As you end your return journey to the village, dusk begins its descent. Despite empty hands, a keen awareness of this shifting ecosystem shapes tomorrow's hunt. No gloom settles here. The accumulated knowledge ensuring the fox's secrets slowly unravel. Re-entry into the village reveals an unexpected gathering, disquiet stirring. Missing, smoke signals trouble at Martin's house. The entire village moves with decisive care. A rescue unfolds with adept efficiency, where shared resources and warmth dispel the deadly cold that nearly claimed a family. The community knits tighter. Familial boundaries blurred for survival. The rhythm of winter's demands etched into every life. Within your household, little changes in this reshuffling. The evening wood's allocation increases slightly, acknowledging the cold's deepening depth. The fire dances a little brighter, a beacon against the bleakness outside, where winter still crouches heavily. The night progresses into renewed patterns, ones that tell of humans' unyielding dance with nature's harshest tests. Stars blanketed by snow reflect a hauntingly stark beauty, nature's dual challenge and gift. Inside, warmth thrives, not merely through heat, but within shared tales, communal fortitude, and timeless wisdom. As sleep weaves its spell, you drift off, cradled by tradition and the quiet knowledge of enduring resilience. In your modern home, your well-stocked refrigerator, and the warm clothes you wear, all seem like unimaginable luxuries to someone living in medieval times. Yet, there's an instinct within us that recalls the age-old cycle of surviving through winter. There's a deep-seated memory of navigating through the darkest day, time 0.65s, conserving whatever we have, and leaning on our communities for support. Such practices shaped the lives of our ancestors, and although these instincts lie dormant now, they could be valuable someday. The bell may ring again at midnight, signaling readiness, but for the time being, it's a moment for time 2.95s. It's the beginning of what they used to call the first sleep. A week has drifted by since the last snowstorm. The village has entered what the elders refer to as the deep winter mindset, wherein time almost seems to slow down, and the community shifts its focus inward. Days no longer seem distinct by their dates, but rather by the tasks at hand, the meals shared, and the relentless fight against the biting cold. Today is pegged as Church Day, not necessarily a Sunday. These temporal markers have blurred, existing now as one of the seasonal holy days interspersing the winter months. The church bell tolls differently today, its sound somehow urgent. Even though the snow muffles sound, your family moves with a careful deliberation. Attending church in winter isn't just a religious commitment, but a communal necessity. It is important for exchanging information, building social ties, and embracing rituals that offer comfort amidst winter's chaos. Your mother suggests you wear your second-best tunic, setting it out for you, time 0.95s. Such decisions in medieval winters were less about fashion, but more about striking a balance between projecting a suitable social status and ensuring warmth. The church assembly demanded respect, reflected in one's attire, while bracing against the punishing cold necessitated practical clothing choices. The journey to the village church takes thrice the time it would in summer. The snow-covered paths have become treacherously icy, requiring cautious steps. Your father wields a walking staff, not so much for balance, but to probe the ice's strength. A single misstep could easily lead to a broken limb, and during winter, this often meant death. Other families also emerge from their homes, similarly bundled and treading with an equal measure of care. Greetings exchanged are short and practical, maybe a heads-up about the slick path by the old oak, or a mention of the gathering north wind. These exchanges are more than mere pleasantries. They're information exchanges that may prove life-saving. The stone church stands at the core of the village, its walls emanating cold. Unlike your wooden homes, the stone structure traps no warmth unless a fire is constantly maintained, and even then, it's never adequately warm. The community's precious firewood is rationed stringently, the church receiving no exception. As the villagers gather inside, clouds of breath form in the chilly air. Father Edwin, the priest, is clad in heavy robes layered over woolen garments, sparing his hands only when handling sacred objects, bowing even his piety to winter's demands. In the depths of this cold, dark season, Father Edwin's familiar voice fills the stone chamber, a reminder of Christ's light, drawing connections between the physical darkness and spiritual themes of endurance and faith. His sermon, though deeply spiritual, surreptitiously weaves in practical guidance, suggesting, as Christ shared loaves, the village should share winter provisions with those less fortunate. This isn't just religiosity. It underscores community strategies for survival. The priest's words carry both divine influence and practical necessity. The survival of a medieval community through winter rested significantly on this seamless blend of faith and practicality. Halfway through the service, snow resumes its descent. It hisses against the tall, narrow windows, causing the congregation to stir with unease. New snow equates to fresh work, potential hazards. Yet, It's fascinating how the very snow posing such threats is also a protective layer. Medieval communities understood this paradox intimately. The snow insulated their homes, preserved food, and shielded dormant crops against fatal frosts. The force of isolation also brought shelter. During the Latin segments of the Mass, your mind begins to wander. The words are distant and cryptic, though their rhythmic recital offers comfort. Observing the congregation, you notice who's absent: the Millers and old Gilbert's household, likely due to illness, as sickness often swept swiftly through cramped families during these months. Following the final blessing, no one hastens to leave. The slight warmth generated from pressings together of many bodies is considered precious. Father Edwin prolongs the post-service announcements, understanding this communal heat's value. The Lord's steward will visit tomorrow for winter accounting, he announced, inciting hushed murmurs. This accounting assesses the village's resources and assures tax obligations will be met by spring. But it also serves an urgent purpose: to spot households at starvation risk before a catastrophe unfolds. Father Edwin continues, mentioning temporary permission for gathering deadfall in the Lord's forest, prompting visible relief. The chance to gather firewood was a life-saving mercy because falling branches were deemed the Lord's property ordinarily. As the congregation disperses into conversational clusters, it isn't happenstance. Post-service gatherings are critical in disseminating vital winter information: which families have resources to spare, who is struggling, where illness has struck, and who might need help repairing storm damages. Staying close to your father, you overhear discussions regarding redistributing Martin's family. Your household might consider taking in the youngest child, as the current living situation is unsustainable with too many little ones already under one roof, stretching resources excessively thin. We've got the room, your father remarks, with a simple practicality rather than altruism. Your home is warmer than others, and your supplies are stable enough. Taking in a child would maintain the village's delicate survival balance. More snow begins to fall, faster now. Families cautiously make their way home, moving in protective clusters. The older villagers lean on the strong and younger generation, another cog in the medieval winter survival machine. No one survives winter alone. Once home, your mother promptly rearranges sleeping spaces to accommodate Martin's youngest. The sleeping platform will be cramped, yet more people sharing the space means increased warmth, illustrating once more the efficient mathematics of medieval winter survival. The afternoon continues indoors, tackling tasks reserved for these constraining months. Your father works on tool repairs at the central table, while your brothers split rushes for the floor. Your mother and sister collaborate with nearby women, partaking in weaving and spinning, mingling labor and company around your fire. Picture this vividly: 5 women seated on low stools, spinning wool into thread as the fire casts long shadows. Their deft hands never cease moving, accompanying an ongoing conversation that melds practicality with shared knowledge. Talk weaves between recipes for winter remedies, ways to eke out dwindling flower supplies, which plants could still offer nutrition despite the snow Bedtime 0x5s, and advice on treating ailments like chilblains and frostbites. Even the casual mention of moss, pus for chest congestion by Agnes's mother evolves into a knowledgeable exchange vital for surviving winter illnesses. A call from your mother sends you to fetch more water. Bucket in hand, you step outside. The new snow blanket's everything in a quietude that feels insulating. Time 0.95s. Your tracks from earlier have vanished beneath another layer as you reach the village well. There, you find Agnes chipping away ice from the bucket chain, crucial maintenance essential in freezing weather. Without clean water, illness would quickly spread owing to contaminated snow. Father Edwin mentioned we might have visitors. Agnes shares while clearing the remaining ice, suggesting significant news. Winter travel between villages is risky and rare, often reserved for urgent matters. What do they want, you inquire, assisting her. She merely offers a shrug. Something involving the spring planting negotiations, I think. The steward insisted time was 0.95s. Politics doesn't pause for seasons. The realization strikes, despite winter's grip, the delicate dance of power between villages, local lords, and the distant king continues undeterred. Decisions now lay the groundwork for survival come spring. On your way back, Agnes points to the manor house visible on the hill. All 3 chimneys smoking today. She observes. Preparation for the steward's stay. Likely. The manor often embodies both protection and weight upon your village. The lordly dominion promises safety, his storehouse a last resort in a dire famine. Yet his demands consistently ripple through every facet of village life. Winter redefines this relationship, transforming rather than suspending it. By evening, you aid your father in arranging for Martin's son's arrival. A small bed awaits near the warmest corner, layered with precious blankets. You'll slightly cut back on your food portion, adjusting for another mouth in the meal division, without complaint. Time 0.95s. The boy arrives, appearing timid, trailing behind an exhausted father. Aged 4 or 5. His eyes reflect confusion and fear. Martin bears signs of strain from falling through protecting his family. He's a good lad. Doesn't eat much. Martin attempts. All children eat. Your father replies gently, as they should. The exchange carries much unspoken weight. Martin's shameful need for aid met with your father's quiet assurance that shielding children transcends individual pride. Once Martin departs, young Edric is coaxed to the fire by your mother. You'll sleep here. She shows him, assigning the pallet between the wall and Thomas, the warm spot of the house. The boy scarcely nods, sensing the situation, aware, yet undeniably afraid. In medieval times, children learned early about the fragile nature of survival. The evening meal unfolds, pottage improved with salt pork for flavor, a staple medieval dish made of vegetables and grain stewed together. Edric's caution evolves into eagerness when nobody interrupts his dining. prompting reflections on Martin's family's struggle before this. How often had they skipped meals to stretch supplies, battled the cold in a house, possibly left to freeze before they sought help? These queries remain unasked, respecting the privacy owed to others' hardships. Post-meal. Nighttime tasks see the household engage in traditional activities. Your father teaches Edric basic knot tying, a skill blending logic with needed diversion. The boy's small fingers grapple initially, but steadily grasp the motions, his demeanor softening for the first time since his arrival. Night cascades early, typical of winter. The fire is banked for first sleep as everyone assumes their nightly pattern, altered slightly to incorporate Edric's presence. He clings to your tunic's edge, anchoring against a new, strange reality. First sleep gathers the household swiftly, with rejoinder from the day's labors necessitating rest. The midnight bell's resonance marks the watch time, awakening you from first sleep. Edric stirs, bewildered by this unfamiliar routine, but your mother soothes him back to slumber. Children aren't held to adult sleeping partitions. Their growing forms need the continuous rest to develop. Meanwhile, your father and older brother quietly plan the next day's forest deadfall gathering, optimizing the Lord's granted permissions. Thomas, too. Your father decides, nodding your way, recognizing that strength in numbers enhances efficiency. Being counted within the ranks warms deeper than any fur. Time 0.7s. At 15, you carry weight in family survival. A notable transition. The watch unfolds with serene productivity. Your mother mends Edric's trousers and tunic, reinforcing worn areas with scraps. Here, nothing is overlooked. Everything saved for winter repairs. Medieval persistence, down to essentials like these, echoed through generations. Guarding survival. Second, sleep slips deeper. Your dreams alive with summer's vivid symbols, abundant greenery, serene sunshine, plentiful harvests, providing mental refuge from harsh winter. The morning unveils the usual gray half-light, persisting throughout. Rising early. The family prioritizes gathering from the temporarily allowed forest. Breakfast serves substantial energy, oats with precious honey, a small beer in preparation for demanding labor ahead. As Edric mulls over the bounty, intrigue reflects once more upon his family's former deprivation. The forest expedition shapes at the village edge, each able body with ropes, axes, and saw in time 0.95s. And this is less competition, more orchestrated harvest. The village woodwarden directs groups to maximize efficiency across forest areas. Assigned north, near the fallen limbs from recent winds, your family embraces the challenge through deep, untamed snow, foreseeing wood's worth against winter's grasp. Midday finds triumph in substantial gains. The homeward trek tests endurance, yet satisfaction eases burdens. Returning to the village unveils unusual activity, a steward announcing, conducting official matters from the church, a rare winter occurrence. The guard attendance disrupts routine, illustrating their gravity. Tending with stewardship's calling, Remaining tasks await. Record-keeping amidst largely illiterate society, yet incredibly meticulous. From afar, trading voiced speculations about the steward, some relieved, others concerned. They await assessments, knowing weak household resources might mean forced family mergers. Your family fares reasonably, though accountable for shared duties should shortages emerge, aligned to medieval contractual fairness. Afternoon hears of Agnes's voice's predictions. The neighboring village visitors recount woes, snow-damaged storages, house collapses, now spring planting negotiations posed. Resource politics dictated by grievance. Underlying medley of shared and mutual need elites' engagement sways. A take, perhaps today's gain, in future cost. The day concludes with a rather settled Edric, woodstocks rejuvenated, village buzzing around political discussions. Tomorrow proposes anew, with the Lord anticipated, stirred by unusual winter intervention. Awaiting first sleep, you explain to Edric how medieval nights were partitioned into first sleep, watch, second sleep. That's tradition. Accepting, with a child's quiet composure, hints resilience underlying medieval youth. On the crisp night, stars stretch brilliantly through clear frigid skies. Inside, warmth, tranquility cultivated by a careful community rhythm. As the household gradually drifts into the comforting rhythm of sleep, the medieval winter continues its relentless challenge on human endurance and innovation. A test that your forebears overcame generation after generation, as evidenced by your very existence centuries later. Finally, the first wave of sleep envelops you while the fire dwindles to embers. Tomorrow promise fresh challenges, requiring new calculations and adaptations. But for now, you must rest. The night watch will approach sooner than you think. During this season, known to the villagers as the hunger moon, it has been 6 weeks since the first frost. Outside your window, the landscape remains ensnared by winter's grasp. But inside the hut, a more subtle adversary has settled in: hunger. Not the acute pangs of complete starvation, but the persistent, gnawing ache of never quite having enough. You awaken from a second sleep, and immediately feel it. Your stomach contracts slightly. Time 0.65s. A protest against the diminishing portions you receive with each passing day. Next to you, young Edric shifts, his small body curled tightly against the wall for warmth. He's been with your family for nearly 3 weeks now, growing accustomed to your household routine. Is it morning? He quietly asks, his voice still tinged with sleepiness. Almost. You reply, though you hardly know for sure, as winter days merge into each other now, distinguished only by the common challenges faced by the village. Your father is already up, meticulously feeding the smallest portion of the precious wood into the hearth. Every house in the village has started rigorously rationing everything: food, fuel, even movement. Each calorie spent must offer a tangible survival benefit. Today is the grain store inspection. your father states without turning. Everyone knows this, but voicing it underlines the importance of the event. The communal grain store, a carefully designed pit lined with clay and straw, is the village's final safeguard against starvation. Unlike individual household stocks, which vary depending on family size and harvest success, the grain pit serves as an emergency reserve. It is not opened lightly. Will there be enough? Edric inquires with the straightforwardness of a child. The adults glance at one another, time 0.95s. Medieval children were not shielded from harsh truths, but adults often chose words carefully to avoid undue worry. Enough for our needs. Your mother responds, diplomatically offering no specific promises. Breakfast is thin, a gruel primarily consisting of water with a meticulously measured portion of precious oats. Gone are the raw honey and dried fruit, luxuries that vanished weeks prior. You eat slowly, ensuring each bite feels satisfying, training your body to be content with less. It's hard to fathom the psychological burden of a crisis unfolding slowly. Each day brings dwindling supplies and endless calculations if we consume this amount. By this date, our stores will deplete. In modern times, people panic if their favorite cereal runs out. The persistent hunger of a medieval winter poses a significantly more intense psychological warfare. Post-breakfast, your family layers up for the brief walk to the village center. Despite the biting cold, much of the community already congregates. An inspection of this magnitude cannot be missed. The atmosphere is serious, tense. You notice Martin, Edric's father, now even thinner than when he left his son with you. He offers a nod in acknowledgement but doesn't approach. This isn't the time for reunions. Edric will return to his family once winter passes. No explanations needed. Elder Harold stands next to the sealed entrance of the grain pit, accompanied by Father Edwin, providing religious authority to the proceedings. This goes beyond merely managing resources. It reflects a sacred obligation to both God's covenant and future generations. Today, we assess what's left. Harold announces, his voice reaching the assembled villagers, to plan ahead. The elders cautiously unseal the pit, careful not only to protect its contents, but also to preserve the very structure meant to last for years. Medieval storage techniques represented accumulated generations of wisdom. An incorrect moisture level or temperature could spell disaster. The village's two most trusted elders descend into the dim pit with torches. The wait feels endless. Children squirm despite the cold, while adults maintain composed expressions, concealing the tension revealed by tense jaws and crossed arms. When the elders reappear, their expressions convey the story even without words. The outcome is not catastrophic, but it is certainly not reassuring. We have enough grain for 20 more days at the current ration, Harold declares. Possibly 30 if we reduce further. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Spring is still over 40 days away, and the calculations are plain and harsh. Harold continue. We begin supplementing with marsh flour today. You've heard of this, but never experienced it. Marsh flour, derived from pounding cattail roots into a pulp, is a survival food, labor-intensive to prepare and less nutritious than grain, but it extends the flour reserves, stretching valuable wheat and barley closer to spring. Tomorrow, we gather woodland shoots and bark for flour. Harold adds. This elicits a stronger reaction from the crowd. Bark flour, created from the inner bark of specific trees, signifies true famine conditions. Its preparation is arduous, its nutrition scant, and its taste bitter. The consideration of such foods underlines the precariousness of the situation. Time 095s. Can you truly comprehend what's happening here? These people are systematically working through a list of increasingly desperate food options. They aren't panicking. They've inherited crucial survival knowledge. Which plants are safe when everything else is scarce? Which tree bark won't poison you? How to transform these last resort foods into minimal nutrition isn't improvised. It's refined survival technology preserved through generations. As the meeting concludes, your father converses with Elder Harold. Your family will join the marsh flour processing team, a demanding task that will consume the afternoon. In medieval times, labor roles weren't optional, especially during crises. The community's survival needs outweighed individual wishes. Bring the boy, Harold instructs, nodding to Edric. He's old enough to help and young enough to learn. This is how skills are transferred in oral cultures, by participating, watching, doing. Time 0.95s. Edric's involvement isn't simply about having extra hands. It's about ensuring these survival skills endure through the next generation. The frozen marsh lies a mile beyond the village, yet accessible with determination. Breaking through ice, your group reaches the cattails, harvesting with focused resolve. Despite mitten, time 0.65s. Fingers grow numb from the cold, breath visible on beards and scarves. I've done this 3 times in my life. William, working beside you, mentions casually. Twice as a boy during a severe famine, and once as an adult 10 winters ago. This casual remark unveils something significant. The village confronts this level of scarcity roughly once per decade. Survival knowledge requires periodic reinforcement, or it fades. Such crises, while perilous, also reinforce invaluable skills. Once back in the village, the cattail roots must be clarified, pounded, soaked, and strained repeatedly to eliminate fibers and impurities. The resulting starchy paste is dried by the fires to create a powder, extending the limited grain supply. Edric works alongside you, his young hands adeptly learning the repetitive motions of cleaning roots. In medieval villages, children weren't simply mini-adults, but they certainly played essential roles in ensuring survival. By age 5, most could contribute meaningfully. By 10, many mastered numerous practical skills. My grandma said during the Great Hunger, people ate bark. Edric tells you as you work. And worse things. You understand his implication. Medieval famine tales included darker memories, like boiling leather or grinding bones. These stories weren't mere cautionary tales, but held real instructions disguised as historical accounts. If it happens again, here's what you might need to do. By late afternoon, the initial batch of marsh flour is ready. Though grayish and with an odd scent, it provides necessary calories when combined with scarce gray thyme 0.95s. Tomorrow will begin the even more arduous task of bark processing. Visualize this level of adaptation. When modern folks face food shortages, they seek different stores or alternative brands. These medieval communities redefine food categories as winter progresses, delving into options many today wouldn't deem edible. When daylight wanes, still oppressively early due to deep winter, the village transitions into nightly communal activities. Despite food shortages, life carries on in other dimensions. They understood survival included not just the physical, but also the psychological. Morale needed nurturing. In the village hall, the largest building available, villagers congregate for evening entertainment. Not feasting, for there's nothing to feast upon, but storytelling, simple music, and equipment-free games. With your family, including Edric, now animated by this rare social event, you join them. The hall is only marginally warmer than outside time 0.665s, but the gathered bodies generate heat. Tallow candles shed minimal illumination. Precious beeswax candles are reserved for church services. Who remembers the winter of the wolf pack? Calls Thomas the Elder, a recognized storyteller among the villagers. The winter, when 16 wolves descended from the hills and encircled the village for a fortnight. There are eager calls for the known tale. Medieval entertainment was communal, participatory. The best stories were universally familiar, but enjoyed repeatedly, reinforcing shared cultural identity. Thomas launches into the account, his voice rising and falling for dramatic effect. It's a tale of danger, cunning, and ultimate triumph. How the village outwitted and trapped the wolf pack during a uniquely harsh winter 40 years earlier. The underlying message is unmistakable. We've faced worse and persisted. We'll endure this, too. Children listen with wide eyes to tales of menacing wolves circling the village. Adults nod at familiar sections, occasionally chiming in with additions or corrections. This isn't mere entertainment. It's oral history being preserved and passed down. Following several stories, the games start. Simple contests of skill and chance, stone casting, riddle solving, and hand wrestling. No prizes are awarded beyond social esteem, but the competition is lively and good-natured. Such physical activities help mitigate restless energy accumulated during winter isolation while reinforcing communal bonds. Your father shines at riddles, a talent inherited through your family line. Edric watches fascinated, as adults exchange increasingly obscure puzzles. Despite the community crisis, there's laughter, not carefree or plentiful, but reflecting authentic human resilience. the assembly concludes soon, being too frugal to burn extra fuel, purely for entertainment. Families disband, groups of them navigating dark and slippery paths with shielded rushlights. As your family prepares for the first sleep, urgent knocks on the door disrupt the routine. It's William, grave-faced under the dim firelight. Old Gilbert has slipped, he announces brusquely, adding that the healer requests your assistance for vigil duty. Though surprised, being not yet an adult, you seem old enough for this somber contribution. With your father's approval, you quickly dress for the outside. Night, watching over the dying, is both a practical obligation and sacred duty in medieval communities. Nobody dies alone if it's avoidable. Gilbert's small cottage stands on the village outskirts, reflecting signs of neglect. With his wife long deceased and children having moved away, he's survived through communal aid. But winter illness has caught him at the age of 60, considered ancient by medieval standards. Inside, healer Ida attends the elderly man. The room feels barely warmer than outside. Gilbert's wood supply has dwindled, unable to gather more. Before Ida's urging, you sit beside Gilbert. Should he speak or his breathing alter? Call her immediatelle, time 0.95 s. Alone, you confront the shadow of mortality. Though not your first brush with death's proximity, medieval life involved familiar contact. It's your first direct witness to death's inevitable approach. Remarkable, isn't it? At perhaps 15, you are tasked with a deathbed watch as if it's routine. Today's teenagers often face life shielded. Yet, in medieval villages, death was a collective experience shared by all, regardless of age. Gilbert stirs, eyes opening momentarily to fix sharply on you. Water, he requests in a wispy, time 0.95 s. Carefully, you support his head, helping him sip from the cup before he subsides again. Tell Harold. The east field needs the drainage ditch widened by spring. Flooded last year. Even facing death. Practical wisdom, exchange endure, time 0.95s. Ensuring that his unique knowledge doesn't perish along with him. He's possibly offering survival-critical advice. I will, you assure, to which Gilbert nods before drifting silent again, though he breathes onward. Ida returns with an herbal concoction, less medicine to cure than a comfort for gently easing Gilbert's departure. Time 0.95 s. People tended not to combat death frantically as done today. Recognizing when transition is unavoidable, they instead focus on providing solace. Through the night, several villagers arrive to spend short moments with Gilbert, paying respects and recognizing his lifetime contributions toward communal survival. Void of verbose speeches and elaborate ceremonies, there's simply quiet presence and occasional discussions regarding his few belongings and their practical redistribution. Near dawn, his breathing alters, growing more irregular, prompting Ida to signal you that it's time to summon Father Edwin. The priest arrives promptly, performing last rites with reverential precisio. Time 0.995 s. Within hours, Gilbert is gone. What follows reveals another facet of medieval winter life. The ground is frozen solid, too hard for immediate burial digs. Consequently, Gilbert's body is washed, wrapped in his best clothes, and stored in the village's corpse shed, a small edifice at the outskirts where winter's dead lay until spring. Thaws allow proper burial. Although surprising to modern standards, this practice was a realistic necessity. While the deceased were treated respectfully, devoid of sentimentality, their souls were seen as already departed. A brief service is held, in which the entire village participates despite biting cold. This communal event summarizes Gilbert's life by emphasizing his contributions: skilled thatcher, knowledgeable in field drainage, and survivor of 3 major famines. His possessions are distributed, based on necessity, with tools given to those needing them most, remaining provisions added to communal reserves, and winter clothes shared with families having growing children. What stands out about this death isn't the occurrence itself, but the community's response. Winter mortality was expected, but instead of hysteria or indifference, there was simple acknowledgement with respect, immediately adjusting community operations to function with 1 fewer member. The day following Gilbert's passing presents a new crisis. A major storm looms. Medieval weather forecasting relies on pattern recognition. Signs point to treacherous conditions. Methodically, the village readies, securing animals, fortifying structures, and establishing check-in systems among vulnerable homes. Your family enacts additional fuel conservation measures, anticipating prolonged immobility during the storm's peak. Food portions are further reduced, balancing current hunger against potential future inaccessibility to more supplies. The storm arrives more severe than anticipated. Snow falls densely, obscuring houses mere yards away, and howling winds cut through every wattle and daub wall crack. Treacherous, temperatures reach skin-freezing extremes within minutes. For 3 days, the village exists as isolated clusters, each home a self-contained survival island. Customary communal life temporarily yielded to nature's fierce grip. Such intervals tested not only group solidarity, but each household's extensive preparations and knowledge. Your family weathers the tempest through vigilant management. Frail embers flicker at minimal levels. Bodies huddle close for shared heat. Every morsel meticulously portioned, and even water carefully rationed, since accessing the well becomes perilous. Edric acclimates to the rigorous measures with unexpected agility. The medieval child's capacity for normalizing hardship bolsters survival talent. Time 0.95 s. He doesn't complain regarding the chill or hunger, instead finding ways to help, whether by calming poultry or twisting rushlights, even narrating stories to pass long hours. When the storm clears, the village emerges, assessing its aftermath. Amazingly, no lives have been lost, though roof section damages and a collapsed shed require repairs. the evolution of medieval architecture, sturdy, low-configured buildings with sloped roofs, specifically suits enduring such extremities. Yet more troubling are the repercussions impacting already dwindling food provisions. The council urgently convenes, recalculating rations based on storm-imposed delays against anticipated weather forecasts. A difficult yet imperative decision. Daily grain portions are cut another third. Marsh and bark flour now form the primary bread source. Still, amid deepening adversity, unexpected hope surfaces. Scout reports of early snow goose sightings suggest potential early spring, a migration closely observed through generations. The news cascades through the village like the warmth of an open fire. Though uncertain, it fuels resolve, motivating continued judicious resource use, sustaining the hunger for another stretch. That evening, while your family prepares for first sleep, Edric voices a surprising inquiry. Can I stay here when spring arrives? The question halts suspended among the smoky gloom. Medieval family bonds prove more adaptable than those today, adapting to death frequency and resource flux. Yet permanently fostering a child from their birth family involves considerable thought. Your father carefully contemplates before replying. That decision belongs to your father and village elders, implying that should your family survive winter with extra provisions, whereas Martin's struggles persists, time 0.65s. Such parenting might genuinely be considered. In medieval upbringing, such practical arrangements underlay fostering and apprenticeships. Edric accepts this inconclusive response, content like a child who understands the weight of adult matters, yet trusts in their careful deliberation. In the medieval village, decision-making was a layered and intricate process, influenced by a multitude of complex factors that set the course of people's lives. Villagers, though constrained by their social environment, were not entirely without influence or power. As night descended and first sleep approached, a time when the medieval mind went into calculation mode, you found yourself pondering the same concerns your ancestors did. You wondered about the days left until the planting season, the sufficiency of food supplies, and the weather patterns that could make or break a community. Life was precarious, but there was a faint but growing possibility of survival, as the stars outside traced their eternal paths used by countless generations to mark time. Within your family household, the gentle rhythm of first sleep prevailed, conserving energy while the fire dwindled to its embers. Outside, the reign of the hunger moon, a time of scarcity, showed signs of waning. Spring wasn't here yet, but for the first time, it felt less of a desperate wish and more like an impending fact. The fierce medieval winter had tested the village beyond its limit, time 0.65s, yet the community, like so many before it, found ways to endure. As the night deepened, and the time for watch was upon the community, you lingered in the liminal space between first and second sleep, a period when faint sounds of the night took on new meanings. You were suddenly awakened by a distant cracking sound. Other family members stirred, and your father, alert, tilted his head as though to catch the noise more clearly. "Ice breaking on the river," he said, each word a beacon of change. The river, so long frozen solid that it bore the weight of sleds, was showing the first signs of thaw. "Is that good?" young Edric inquired softly. Your father paused, measuring the balance between risk and opportunity. In medieval times, when people assessed the world, they did not view events simply in terms of good or bad. They focused on adaptation and survival in their ever-changing environment. The household returned to the watch, engaging in quiet tasks like mending and tool preparation. A subtle shift in emotion was palpable, noted not in overt actions, but in gentler postures and marginally lighter tones. Come morning, these night sounds translated into visible changes. Though snow lingered, its sharp edges had softened, and paths through the village shimmered with moisture during the day. The relentless winter wind, which had once drummed through the village with bitter ferocity, now seemed to carry whispers of warmth. "Look," Agnes pointed out as you passed her by the well, indicating a southern-facing place near the church wall. Signs of life broke through. Snowdrops, harbingers of the incoming spring. Time 0.65 s. had bravely emerged through the thinning snow. Their arrival was timed perfectly. Monasteries had intentionally planted them, linking their appearance with early spring religious celebrations. You both paused, struck by their beauty, a burst of color after a monochrome winter, and their deeper significance. They had survived the harsh condition, time 0.65 s, much like the village. 3 more weeks, Father Edwin remarked, echoed by Agnes. Until we can start plowing. 3 weeks felt long, yet it represented a tangible countdown. The medieval villagers found comfort in such concrete measures, using them to break the unrelenting march of winter into measured, manageable periods. At the village's grain store, Elder Harold managed the day's rations. The portions were meager, barely enough to make a modest loaf supplemented with things like marsh and bark flour. Yet, the rations had been carefully calculated to last until the first planting. Time was 0.95 hours. It was a delicate balance, leaving no room for error, but it was enough. With the promise of river watch duty came both honor and burden. It was crucial now, as melting ice posed the threat of flooding that could damage winter stores or erode buildings' foundations. And any attempts to cross the river risked fatal mishap. Time 0.95 s. The whole village showed signs of life stirring, activity replacing the hibernation of the past months. People repaired tools, cleared drainage channels, and assessed winter's toll on their homes. Everyone moved with renewed purpose, driven by the urgency to prepare for the planting season, except they continued to carry the marks of winter's hardships. Faces were drawn and thin, movements mechanized, muscles weary from months of hardship. Yet, with each hint of winter's retreat, the collective mood brightened. The resilience articulated by medieval people was not just physical, but intensely communal and social. Shared adversity bonded them, infusing hope into their interactions. Birds began to return, offering both logistical information and nourishment for the soul. The rooks nested in the high elm, an avian assurance, as interpreted by local wisdom, that spring was imminent. Your duty on the river started at dusk. You were paired with Willem, whose seasoned experience guided your youthful energy. You both walked the river's edge, mindful of its treacherous potential. Night fell, yet the air felt different, not as biting, ushering a peace of relief after months of breathing in winter's frost. Willem pointed out across the river, indicating neighboring villagers with torches, engaging in their coordinated walk, a silent communication, developed generations before, served as the backbone of a critical warning system. Willem explained the signal, a code created after a significant flood in his grandfather's time, ensuring 3 villages cooperated in their watch and flood warnings. Night passed without catastrophe, no reckless crossings, no signs of imminent flood in time. 009 years. The village was readying itself for the necessary transformation into a living, working community. Once home, night gave way to second sleep. Your mother, a key figure in balancing the precarious household economy, watched as you returned and quickly apprised her of the night's events. Each word carried more than just an update. It was approval. Subtle acknowledgement that gradual but significant changes were afoot. The next day, the Lord's forester graced the village with a surprise visit, a key figure whose jurisdiction over forest resources held weight. Villagers gathered as he conferred with the village elders. After careful negotiation, he permitted hazelnut and early greens gathering from the south woodland. For medieval villagers, this access wasn't merely an opportunity. It was a lifeline, coming much earlier than the usual post-Lady Day permission. It opened the doors to valuable protein and nutrients, providing a critical buffer against the winter's prolonged wear. As the night closed, the household engaged in the ritual of preparation, time 0.9 Fes. Bags were inspected and reinforced. For medieval people, such tasks were not mundane. They were life-saving measures. The equipment used to gather would ensure sustenance over the coming weeks. As anticipation painted the evening, Edric asked once more about hazelnuts. His mother recounted where and how to find them, mingling practical survival strategies with years of accumulated wisdom. With first sleep claiming you, dreams of vibrant life flourished in your mind, an internal visualization of the hope that was burgeoning in the world around you. Dawn unveiled a different landscape, unmistakably promising, as village men convened for the woodland. Each journey into the forest was a promise of renewal, temporarily suspending the ever-present vigilance. At the woodland's threshold, spring's whisper was palpable. What had been snowbound fields in the village gave way to signs of burgeoning life. Snowdrops formed a delicate carpet, crocuses reached upwards, and buds began to fatten on branches. The morning was dedicated to gathering across thickets. Your family found nuts and greens. Each artifact collected symbolized not just survival, but the communion of community and nature. This ancient rhythm, balancing need with sustainability, gave purpose to your venture. The bags, while not overflowing, brimmed with enough to reinvigorate life back home. The forester took stock not to limit, but to gauge the forest's yield, ensuring balance was kept for future needs and growth. This stewardship was a delicate art, weaving human survival into nature's patterns. Back at the village, the bounty was met with celebration. Women processed and divided the results with expert hands. The nuts would provide nourishment, the greens critical nutrients, all offered a momentary reprieve from the past season's sparse diet. A surprising visitor that evening was Martin, Edric's father. Despite the residual effects of winter clinging to him, he carried a handmade horse, a symbol of enduring familial linkage. Reunited. Familial ties reaffirmed the bonds that had been stretched thin by necessity but had not broken. The household settled into a rhythm as Martin discussed plans for Edric's return home, the arrangements for planting labor, and mutual gain. The flexibility that characterized medieval families meant that children often moved between households for varying reasons, but without burdening them with undue emotional weight. That night, the imminent change was marked by the internal warmth emanating from the hearth, not just subsistence, but comfort. Outside, the call of an owl, the first in months, spoke to the balancing forces in nature. Sleep was deep and full of dreams of sowing and growing. Your body, having endured the scarcity time 065s, was preparing for the plenty that lay on the horizon. Morning light brought with it revelations. Snow had vanished from central paths, flagging a coming transformation of the village landscape. The earth was revealing itself with urgency. Your father assessed the ground, knowing soon, very soon, the strategic decision to plow would reshape your world. The timing, the decisions, upon such choices rested the future, the perpetual dance of survival and resilience through time. Medieval agricultural productivity was intricately linked to timing precision. Planting too soon risked compacting soil and reducing crop yield, while planting too late could mean missing optimal growing days. Success in medieval farming therefore hinged on properly timed transitions, a knowledge base that was painstakingly built through generations of observation. As if affirming the importance of timely judgment, an unusual church bell pattern rings out, not marking the hours or summoning people for a service, but signaling a village gathering. These special assemblies typically heralded critical announcements or decisions requiring communal input. At the village center, Elder Harold stands beside Father Edwin and two men well known as guild representatives from the nearest market town. Their appearance so early in the season was out of the ordinary, as guild matters generally arose post-planting season. However, Harold's announcement changes the atmosphere. The Weavers' Guild, he declares, is offering an opportunity. They need more wool for summer production and propose advancing grain in exchange for future wool delivery. The news electrifies the villagers, allowing those with sheep to trade future wool for immediate grain, thus easing the strain on their depleting food supplies while also securing a market for the upcoming shearing season. This illustrates the intertwined nature of village economies with broader commercial networks, a distinctive aspect of late medieval economic development. Your parents confer briefly, then join other sheep-owning families to negotiate terms. Medieval economics were not about individual transactions, but community-negotiated events, with village elders ensuring fair treatment and guarding against the exploitation of vulnerable members. This arrangement benefits all parties. The guild receives essential raw materials. Participating families get necessary grain, and the village gains economic security during the critical pre-harvest famine period. Following the guild representatives' departure, Father Edwin delivers another message. In 3 days, weather permitting, there will be a proper burial for those who perished during the winter. This ritual not only officially marks winter's departure, but also honors the lives lost and acknowledges the community's resilience through hardship. The preparations occupy the next few days, with men taking turns to dig graves in the still, partially frozen ground, a laborious but vital task. Women cleanse and rewrap the bodies stored in cold sheds, performing the necessary prayers and rituals. Children pick early spring flowers to adorn the church and graves. Each of these tasks is carried out with quiet efficiency. The community, functioning as a cohesive unit following the enforced cooperation of winter on the designated day. The village processes to the churchyard for the burial ceremony, though each individual receives specific recognition. Old Gilbert, for instance, is remembered for his expertise in drainage, passed on through your discussion with Elder Harold. Such recollections ensure that valuable insights are integrated into collective memory and practical application. As the final prayers are offered, you feel the genuine warmth of the sun, a sign not of the distant winter sun's pale warmth, but of the tangible heat of the changing season. Snowdrops bloom abundantly around the graves, their presence carefully cultivated as markers of the seasonal transition. The village dispersal is gradual, as people linger in the warmth that hints at the long-awaited spring. That evening, your family enjoys a meal bolstered by bread from the guild's grain advance. Though the increase in food is not dramatic, the promise of steady supply brings a perceptible mood shift. In the medieval mindset, resilience was based as much on the assurance of sufficiency as on abundance. Time 0.95s. As you prepare for bed, your father's announcement about inspecting the plow team and harness is more than a simple statement. It holds significant weight. The plow is not just a farming tool, but an essential technology for community survival. Its proper function is critical to the village's continuity. The oxen that power it need careful conditioning post-winter, and the harnesses must be checked for weaknesses that could lead to catastrophic failures during crucial planting phases. For medieval peasants, such technologies were not casually dealt with, but closely integrated into both practical knowledge and cultural meaning. Plowing represented participation in the cycles of the cosmos, linking human efforts with divine order. As darkness falls over the village, new sounds fill the air. The frogs call from thawed pond edges. Birds chatter as they settle in for the night, and the river rushes free. These sounds, replacing winter's silence, audibly confirm the seasonal shift. Your body, attuned to such signals, eases into the first sleep with unusual calm, a release from the constant winter tension. Medieval people lived deeply connected to environmental conditions, their physiology responding to such transitions subconsciously. Outside, the stars move in patterns as familiar to medieval eyes as text is to ours, confirming what the body and environment already communicate. Winter is slowly releasing its grass, time 0.65 s, not dramatically, but through a series of small daily changes. Spring is not yet fully here, and challenges remain before genuine prosperity returns. Yet, the deepest threats of winter have been weathered. The village has survived another cycle of deprivation and emerges tired but intact, prepared to begin the work of renewal. As your first sleep deepens, the low-burning fire signifies continuity, with the watch duty transitioning from a focus on mere survival to more strategic planning. The medieval mindset aligns with the seasons, shifting its focus from survival to potential growth. Rest now comes as an interlude between the harsh demands of winter and the anticipated work of spring. The dawn of the first plowing day arrives clear and mild. Waking before the household, you feel a restive energy coursing through you. Today is not just another entry in the agricultural calendar, but a pivotal moment marking winter's true end and the start of the growing season. Outside, transformation is evident. Once frozen fields now display the dark, rich earth emerging from beneath melting snow. The air is transformed with fresh scents, damp soil, early blooms, the distinct smell of new growth. Even the light is altered, stronger and more golden than the pale gray of winter. Your father finds you watching this rejuvenation, saying nothing but placing a hand on your shoulder. This rare gesture acknowledges the day's importance and your role in surviving the winter. In medieval society, emotional expression was subtle, conveyed through actions rather than words. Your father's mention of gathering the plow team after breakfast and his practical advice to wear sturdy boots underscores your transition toward adulthood, a symbol of your entry into the community's essential labor force. Time 0.95 s. At 15, this season signals a significant threshold. No longer a mere helper, but a young man in the community's core activities. Breakfast offers another sign of shifting times, slightly larger portions, complemented by the early spring greens gathered yesterday. The desperate rationing of deep winter has softened, though careful management persists. Medieval food security progressed through distinct phases, each managed with its strategies and adaptations. Edric watches your family's morning routine with mixed feelings. Having spent winter with your household, his health visibly improved. He is still thin, but with brighter eyes and more vigor. Now, as winter's chill recedes, he will return to his family. his fostering period drawing to a close as concerns of survival lessen. "Will I see the plowing?" he asks his heart. "You'll help with stone clearing," your mother replies. Every hand is needed today. This inclusion is as much a practical necessity as it is an acknowledgement of his growing capability. The entire village participates in the first plowing, a communal effort with men handling plows and oxen, women preparing field boundaries, and children collecting stones unearthed by frost heaving. Medieval agriculture was a collective enterprise, its success reliant on coordinated efforts that transcended age and gender divisions. The village gathers at the field's edge as the sun ascends. 8 oxen stand ready, their large forms steaming slightly in the cool morning air. These animals represent vital community assets. Their strength is the village's lifeline, consuming precious resources during winter, but finally repaying that investment today. 4 plows, meticulously maintained over the winter, await to cut into the soil. Medieval plows were sophisticated tools, refined over centuries to suit specific local soil conditions. Elder Harold speaks briefly before the work commences. It's not exactly a ceremony, but an acknowledgement of transition. Winter has passed. The field is ready. May God bless our labor. His words echo with multiple layers of meaning. Time 0.95. The reference to winter speaks both of physical seasons and endured hardships. The field signifies potential, while the blessing calls for both a prosperous harvest and recognition of higher powers governing fortunes. The first plow team advances, 2 men steering the plow while another guides the oxen. The sound of the share cutting into the soil resonates deep. Time holds 0.65s, more significant than its volume alone suggests. This auditory signal represents the continuity of life's cycles, persisting despite winter's adversities. The rich scent of freshly turned earth rises, bringing a sense of promise. Each succeeding team follows, etching guides for future work. The entire village watches these beginnings with focused intensity. Medieval agricultural knowledge was shared. Learning occurred through observation and hands-on experience rather than written instructions. Every observer absorbs technical details and cultural significance alike. Your father's team takes its turn, and you follow, assigned to clear obstructions. Though physically demanding, time 0.65s. The work feels different, directed toward abundance rather than merely staving off scarcity. This distinction was a known one in medieval psychology. Winter's work meant preservation. Spring's efforts heralded creation. The field gradually transforms as neat furrows replace flat, compacted surfaces, exposing soil to warming sun and revitalizing air. Medieval farmers, through centuries of practice, understood the fertility boost this provided, even if scientific explanations eluded them. Women contribute by breaking clumps with mallets where the plow hasn't fully turned the earth, while children gather stones brought to the surface by frost cycles. Even the elderly engage, watching for clues like the birds that follow the plow. ensuring water doesn't pool excessively. Edric is among the children, adeptly collecting stones, his small hands filling a basket with efficiency. His father, Martin, works nearby, occasionally glancing towards his son. This winter, Edric has grown time 0.65 s, gaining not just in physical stature but also in capability and knowledge, an outcome frequently yielded by temporary fostering, reinforcing the wisdom behind flexible household structures in medieval communities. By noon, a quarter of the common field is turned, and everyone pauses for a meal brought from the village. Bread, cheese, and small beer momentarily replenish laborers without dulling their focus. Medieval work rhythms were organized to maintain efficiency over long periods. During this break, you note how Agnes, distributing food, displays a newfound steadiness, her movements more assured post-winter. The season tested everyone, but some emerged stronger, their capabilities highlighted through necessity. Good work with the stones, you tell Edric, as he joins your circle for the meal. Quick hands. The boy beams at this rare acknowledgement. Medieval praise was sparing but impactful, the rarity enhancing its motivation. As the meal conclude, time 0.65 s, Harold announces the afternoon tasks, finishing the first field section by dusk, preparing tools for the next day. Spring plowing spans weeks, with each section receiving meticulous care. But this initial day holds special significance, as both a threshold and a commencement. Work resumes with focused purpose, though muscles, depleted by winter's sparse diet, protest the sustained effort. Yet, there is satisfaction found in this toil, a familiar, productive exhaustion. Medieval bodies knew different fatigues, the hollow depletion of winter versus the full tiredness of meaningful labor. Later, dark clouds loom in the west, not threatening, storm, but demanding attention. Elders study their formation, calculating remaining daylight against work progress. Medieval weather predictions were a blend of observation, pattern recognition, and accumulated wisdom. Will work to the oak marker. Harold decides, marking about 2/3 of the first field sectio. Time 0.9 s. Secure tools in the equipment shed today. The revised plan reflects acknowledgement of both weather conditions and human limits, a recognition of medieval planning's evolution, balancing ambition with realistic assessment. As work concludes, light rain gently settles the freshly turned soil without creating undue mud. Villagers remark on this timely occurrence, time 0.6 s, seen as a sign of natural order aligning with human needs, a reflection of medieval spirituality. Not intervention, but confirmation. Returning to the village, there is newfound energy as people walk and talk more freely. Winter's physical transformation is underway, conservation giving way to spring revitalization. At home, Edric prepares to return to his family, leaving with more than he came, a common benefit of medieval fostering arrangements. His father Martin arrives, expressing gratitude simply and sincerely. his words encompassing winter's complex negotiation, aiding and receiving without imposing lasting obligation, a balance maintained in medieval communities through mutual recognition and dignity. As darkness falls, your father makes a small but significant change. He adds another log to the fire before banking it for the night. This action signifies a vital shift from conserving to balancing comfort with necessity, a manageable ease replacing winter's desperate survival. The household prepares for sleep with this warmth enveloping the room, the familiar sleeping pattern slightly expanded as temperatures rise. Medieval sleeping arrangements adapted to seasonal changes, the first sleep arriving seamlessly after the day's exertion, dreams continuing the day's labor. When the watch bell rings, your household rouses with less urgency than during winter's depths. The fire embraces its warmth, and the air lacks winter's sharpness. Midnight conversations now contain less focus on heat conservation and more on tomorrow's endeavors, transferring knowledge in the quiet of night. Your father instructs you on the tasks ahead, testing your understanding amidst the calm. Medieval education thrived in these deliberate instructions during periods of focus, passing knowledge from experienced elders to emerging community members, ensuring continuity and resilience through the generations. From practitioner to developing apprentice, the journey unveils a wealth of knowledge. As the elder draws a makeshift map in the ashes, he elucidates how the north field corner is prone to water accumulation. "We plow it last," he says, giving it more time to dry, but sometimes too late. Time 0.65s, allowing weeds to thrive before crop seeds are planted. This delicate timing requires keen judgment, an understanding passed down through generations, rooted in the specifics of this very land rather than generalized principles. This deeply localized wisdom formed the bedrock of medieval agricultural knowledge. As night approaches, households effortlessly settle into relaxation, the harsh grip of winter, which kept bodies tense, even in moments of rest, loosens its hold. Now, second sleep arrives with ease. In medieval times, physiology instinctively recognized safety below the level of conscious thought, adjusting energy and tension as the environment permitted. Time 0.95s. Morning awakens with a symphony of birds, not just the hardy winter survivors, but a rich chorus heralding an ecosystem in renewal. Chickens become more active as daylight stretches longer, their egg production already on the rise. Even the house cat opts to stay outside longer, hunting the rodents emerging anew. Breakfast is enriched by the first fresh egg in months, a rare and precious treat divided carefully among household members. During medieval winters, protein sources dwindled, but early spring marked the slow return to nutritional adequacy. The second day of plowing benefits from warmer weather and drier soil, accelerating progress. Despite winter's interruption, time 0.65s. The workers' bodies remember the old routines, how to handle the plow, adjust its depth, and expertly guide the oxen over challenging ground. During a brief pause, Agnes appears with water for the workers, her presence more than mere chance. "My father says you manage the river watch well," she mentions, extending a ladle of water. "He speaks of apprenticing you in water management if your father agrees." What seemed like a casual comment carries weighty implications. In medieval communities, water management was crucial for controlling drainage, preventing floods, and maintaining irrigation. An apprenticeship in this field meant gaining valuable knowledge and enhancing both personal and family status while forging new social ties. You acknowledge the opportunity with quiet humility, prepared to learn eagerly, fully aware of its significance. In medieval times, career negotiations unfolded subtly. Indirect conversations laid the groundwork before formal agreements were made. The day wraps up with nearly half the common field plowed, a collective achievement sparking mutual satisfaction. Tonight, the village gathers for a communal meal, households sharing resources to celebrate progress. These gatherings served to strengthen social bonds, distribute food equitably, and act as psychological markers for seasonal transitions. Elder Harold offers a simple acknowledgement. Good soil turned today, a strong start for growing. His words recognize both the physical reality of the day's work and its deeper significance as the village builds its foundation for the future. Communication here often operated on many levels, with practical observations carrying additional meaning understood by all. As darkness fall, time 0.65 s. Children perform a traditional spring play, enacting the victory of the growing season over winter's chill. These seasonal celebrations did more than entertain. They affirmed community values, transmitted cultural knowledge, and helped process collective experiences. Edric's small role is performed with earnest intent, his movements more confident and attuned to the village rhythm. His winter encounters with your family have transformed him, just as your brush with scarcity and adaptation has subtly shifted your own mindset. Medieval identity was forged through such collective challenges. Individual personalities developed in response to community necessities, balancing personal contribution with societal cooperation. Surviving winter demanded both social collaboration and individual effort. The night concludes with quiet fireside discussions, plans extending beyond tomorrow's tasks to the coming weeks, with summer's work on the horizon and the promise of the harvest beyond. As your household prepares to settle into first sleep, your father mentions a possibility you never considered before, adding a room when summer arrives. This casual suggestion signifies a shift from winter's relentless conservation to tentative growth planning, a move from survival to the contemplation of modest expansion. Sleeping arrangements reflect this new reality, with bodies spaced slightly further apart, the fire burning more substantially, the wood supply robust enough for comfort without worry. First, sleep now holds a different quality, not defined by the body's desperate withdrawal from cold and hunger, but instead follows productive labor. Your dreams are populated with images of fertile fields greening under the sun and future harvests stored securely away. Medieval consciousness perceived such dreams not as random but as meaningful processes of both memory and anticipation. The watch period brings the gentle pitter-patter of rain, not winter's icy threat, but spring's nourishing moisture, sounds that provide a serene backdrop for quiet activities as the household moves within familiar rhythms. In medieval sensory experience, each sound, smell, and texture had specific connotations within the year's cycle. Your father talks of longer-term strategies for which crops to plant, necessary tool repairs, and potential improvements to storage sheds. Despite the arrival of spring, the medieval mindset never fully relaxed into abundance. Awareness of future scarcity remained a constant presence, though now as a manageable consideration rather than an immediate threat. As second sleep approach, time 0.65s, the household settles into rest without the tight conservation of winter. Bodies that have endured months of cold, hunger, and constant calculation begin to heal, subtly, gradually, tissues rebuilding, energy reserves slowly replenishing. Morning breaks with stronger light and gentle warmth, not yet the heat of summer, but an invitation to spring. The fields await continued labor, each day building not just on preservation, but on new security. Medieval seasonal progression saw psychological transitions mirroring physical changes. Different mental states matched the various phases of agriculture. As you ready for another day of plowing, you recognize that things have shifted, not just externally, but in your collective understanding. Winter has been endured, not without effort or cost, but successfully, maintaining existence, knowledge, and community. Medieval winters demanded extraordinary adaptability, a blend of physical endurance, resource management, social cooperation, time 0.6s, and resilience honed over generations. These qualities created cultures well aligned with environmental challenges that would confound the modern, unprepared mindset. Your own body bears winter's marks, thinner from a restricted diet, stronger from necessary toil, senses sharpened by the constant evaluation of shifting conditions. These changes will remain, guiding future choices and shaping your growth from adolescence into adulthood. Stepping outside into the emerging spring light, the contrast with winter's somber cold is almost tangible. Warmth touches skin long shielded from the elements. Brightness floods eyes accustomed to gray. As you take your place beside your father, the village stretches out before you, slowly expanding from winter's constraints. Doors are open during daylight. Children play in cleared areas. Women tend to garden plots near homes, and men repair winter-damaged structures. The community moves outward, engaging with an environment that is finally more ally than adversary. Your medieval ancestors grasped what many modern individuals have forgotten. Life occurs in cycles of want and plenty, retreat and advance, conservation and expansion. Their wisdom did not lie in avoiding these cycles, but in adapting perfectly to them, devising technologies, social structures, and psychological strategies that ensured survival in every phase. As you join your father for another round of plowing, You carry this rich legacy, not just in genetics, but in cultural know-how, practical skill, and community connections passed down through centuries. The harsh memories of winter begin their transformation into tales for the next long night vigil. These experiences are not forgotten, but are woven into shared community, knowledge, reinforcing individual capabilities and understanding of natural rhythms. Spring continues to unfurl, calling all life to growth and renewal. The village responds, shifting its focus from desperate survival to the deliberate expansion of creation. Medieval life embraced these transitions, finding purpose in nature's rhythms, patterns that modern life often hides or neglects. As plowing proceeds, your body finds its sync with ancient rhythms, hands skillfully handling tools, feet feeling the soil, eyes assessing progress, work that links current actions to inherited insights and future potential. This labor sustains both body and community, partaking in cycles larger than any single life. Winter has passed. Spring blooms, and the medieval village carries on its journey through the ceaseless cycles that have defined human history since the days of early agriculture. Ancestral wisdom guides the hands of descendants. Knowledge flows between the generations. Life endures, adapting to challenge and evolving through renewal. As you drift to sleep in the warmth of your bed, far removed from medieval reality, perhaps some of their resilience survives within you, dormant but ready to awaken should the need arise. Ancient wisdom sleeps lightly, linking modern comfort to ancestral strife through dreams of survival and rebirth. Sleep now, content,